we're live. Welcome to the Gardox Pub. We're fully loaded tonight. It's been a while.
Yeah, well, I don't know who's going to show up what you were asked about, so.
Oh, that's nice.
It's really weird when you really can't give anybody any answers.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I could say why, or the conversation that led to you, leaving, but I can't say whether you were done, whether you were going to be back, or any of that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's a hard call to make, and I wasn't going to make it. What I said about it was that whatever you decided, if you decided that was that, then I respect your decision. And that's, your decision ultimately. So,
Anyway.
and somebody said she wanted to see this comic completed, and I was like, I do as well, but right now I'm just finishing what's scripted because that's all I've got.
Yeah, but we have more after this still. There were, because this introduces him, and then there were, I think, 2 pages after that.
Hey, Digital Tantrum.
Hey, Digital Tantrum. The dynamic duo.
Well,
Go ahead.
I don't think we have an actual script written. I mean, I know there were 7 pages, but I know we condensed them. So I don't know what actual script is written beyond this page.
Oh, well, okay. I'll just send it to you again. I got it. Not a problem. You don't have to look for it.
I am not.
Okay. I was like,
Nope. Right now, my concern is this page. I don't have any other concerns.
good.
I've got three pages leading up to this. I'm just trying to lay this out actually better than what I had before. So okay. I'm looking up a reference for an upshot.
While you do that,
which is what this was. This is an upshot as well. This is a different upshot because it's a different person. So I'm not going to be using examples of cops or whatever, which is what I used an amalgamation of to create this guy.
So I was watching a video by Thinking Critical. I'll make sure I get the name out. And it's their review of the first issue from Marvel of Phoenix. So Phoenix #1. And apparently the artist just ripped off all kinds of stuff. And they went through and did side-by-sides. And I mean, it's like some stuff you might be able to say, well, maybe not. But other stuff, it was like, yeah, there's no way in hell that's not ripped off. And because, there are only so many ways a human body can be twisted. Like at some point in time, you're going to do the same pose as somebody else.
Right. I've discussed this before. This is not a pose that doesn't exist. That's not a pose that didn't exist. It's impossible.
Right.
There's no photograph. There's no drawing that you can do of the human form that hasn't been done at that angle at one point before. The only thing you can do is different characters at that angle with different set pieces.
So anyway, so yeah, so this guy, I mean, some of the stuff, I mean, the whole composition is obviously stolen. Like, if you don't believe me, Thinking Critical, Marvel artist caught stealing comic art in Phoenix. You can watch their video. They did a fantastic job, I thought.
There's plenty of examples of swipes.
But on one hand, and I kind of agree with, like, they kind of brought this up, and I kind of agree with it. Marvel owns all of the art, so if Marvel wants to rip themselves off, I mean, it's their product. I'd say it's bad business policy, but companies have been using, I mean, animation has used the same shots. Hell, movies have used the same shots before.
Yeah, you can't not. It's different props and different drapery.
Or no, I mean, they flat out have used 100% the same shot. Like, it's reused footage. Like, there are examples of that.
Okay, well, yeah, reused footage is a different thing. In Marvel, you can do that because they literally can do that. Like, I'm trying to think of an example offhand, but yeah, I've seen that in movies where they take cuts of old movies and put them in a newer version just to have consistency with the characters.
Yeah.
Or the story might include a piece that was shot already. I don't see a problem with that, actually. So
yeah, I know.
Still that same intellectual property, and it's like it's a consistency thing, right? I mean, I think it's if you were to try to purposely change a costume or an actor or whatever, or the way somebody is represented, when there is an established version of it, then it would seem contrived, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but this is, so like a lot of the stuff they showed, the character doesn't necessarily maintain consistency because it depends on which image they were stealing from. And then, and they're talking, you're changing Storm into Phoenix. And the characters are different, but like, yeah, it's like a lot of stuff from House of M, and they would take it and so they like the image, it's the wrong character, but they basically, you just color the character slightly differently, and the shading is almost identical. You put a different uniform, put an iris in. I mean, it's lazy. And I think my biggest problem with it, really, since Marvel owns all of it, Marvel's the one publishing it, is that I think whoever drew it originally should get some credit.
All right, so you're talking about, and that's another issue we've discussed. I don't know if we discussed it, you and I, but we've discussed in our circles, is like say if this was a Jim Lee pose that I was copying, I would say after Jim Lee.
Okay.
Like if Jim Lee drew this picture and this is just my version of Jim Lee's picture.
Oh yeah.
After Jim Lee. That is how you credit that other artist, but I just it's kind of a hard call when you're talking about comics like that. I think people are too hypercritical. They don't realize that, like when we discuss the originality thing. This is the same thing. It's just in a different form. Like you're not gonna. I mean, you may not copy an exact picture. You may not like have an exact reference or a reference and copy it exactly. But you're always going to be influenced, and you're always going to be using something that's gone before. So it's really hard not to say I can't, if I'm drawing Spider-Man, say, and it calls for a specific shot, which Spider-Man is. Remember when we were talking about poses that are inherently
Yep.
a character's pose, like Spider-Man? Like that's how I created his pose. It, because we want him to look enough dog-like. I want him like Mastiff. Usually, you're talking about a larger front legs, chest area, and all that. So you're going to create poses that are not as vertical as they're more horizontal. So if I'm drawing Spider-Man, getting back to my example, and it calls for a shot that McFarlane did awesome job of, right?
Okay.
Why wouldn't I use that as a reference, or possibly use that period?
I don't think the gentlemen at Thinking Critical have any problem with anyone using a reference. In fact, they mentioned people have been using references forever. That's not what I think they are asserting, or people they are reporting on how other people are asserting that this artist for the Phoenix #1 looks like he traced. I mean, flat out, it's that identical.
Oh, who is the artist?
Hold on. Well, hold on a second.
There is one that's infamous for tracing, and his reference is actually just drawing porno and putting clothes on them.
I think they might mention that. Alessandro Miracolo. Yeah, because they mentioned a couple guys that they mentioned one person that seemed to be like ripping off porn, and then another guy that was, which the other guy was like, I don't know, that seems legit to me. He was apparently he poses action figures, snapshots them, and then draws from that. And
yeah, like, Greg Land is infamous for basically, and he's admitted to using porn for his for his women. He's just drawing porn stars and then putting clothes on them, and he's been pointed out a number of times, like a lot. And I say a number of times,
yeah,
many times, that it's direct copies of panels from other things.
wow.
But still, I mean, your original point, I totally agree with that. That's your original point was that you can't, you're not going to come up with stuff that hasn't been done before. It's just a matter of not copying everything in the panel. Like update the TV that he's jumping over or something.
Yeah.
Make it a different car. Make her a blonde instead of a brunette, or
do something.
I mean, not have long fingernails, or
Jean Grey's white, and they were stealing off of Storm, so they did do some changes, but I mean that it was pretty superficial. So it's just something I was happy, just was watching it. And I just thought.
Sorry, no, go ahead. I was just gonna comment on something I didn't understand, but now I do.
Well, I think there's some times when, like, I don't know the requirements Marvel has on the artist for time frames, and if Marvel owns the art and Marvel wants it out, and Marvel bought it, I don't. Since Marvel has the copyright and Marvel has I'm just going to say there's technically, I don't think anything wrong. I think it's why, as an artist, do you want to steal other people's drawings? Unless it's a time crunch thing where it's like, I can draw this, but it takes me this amount of time, and they need this. Hey, Digital Tantrum says, I took a look. Some of them look like reference, but other panels are definitely almost traced. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Not that I want people to go watch videos in the middle of an art show, but, at the same time, I'm like, whatever. People should know. I mean, I think they should know where I got my information from. But I think there's a place for it, and I don't think the guys on Thinking Critical were just, especially one of them, was really harsh about this. And I just thought, I ain't that harsh. I could see where some of this is okay. So, as a person who does illustrations, I wondered what you thought. I think we're on agreement.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's kind of hard because you don't want to copy someone exactly, and that's what I generally try to use a reference. Like, even if I print a photo out or whatever, I try to make changes. Like this guy, the reference for him. Let me look up the reference for him and see if I can find it real quick, just to show you how different it is and how I use the upshot or how I use the reference.
Yeah.
All right, so I used a couple of references. I'm going to show you the first one, which is basically I wanted to get that angle. So as long as we're discussing it, let's
Let me go ahead and put it up on my big screen then.
well, it'll do it by itself, right? But
well, yeah, but I'm
you can't compare these two together.
Right. You have like you're looking at the angles and yeah.
Right. So what I'm using for the upshot, I mean, like if you look, I got his hand in it, but it's not exactly the same. I wanted the angle so you can't see, like this is a different angle by a little bit than he has.
Yeah.
And the way he's looking is different, and parts of his face are cut off different, and he's definitely wearing a completely different suit. Plus, I wanted to change his face, and you can see, I don't know how close you can see this.
Well, not right now.
Well, let's see if I can do that. I don't know if I would be able to, but maybe. Nope.
Oh.
Now it's not even showing it at all. But yeah, I mean, I changed the face. I made this face more Asian.
Yeah.
But like he's not wearing the same drapery at all. This is more form-fitting drapery,
Right.
where you can see the form, and the rest of it's more like an Asian type of armor than the suit jacket that you see.
Okay.
I'll go back to that. Let's shrink it down some. Like, if you shrink it down to this level, it's not the same. It's just a reference. This is not as extreme of an angle, and his size is different.
Right.
So it's a reference, right? That's
right.
What I'm saying is that I'm trying to make it so it's mine, but I'm just using an idea or an example, which
right.
basically is the definition of reference. Well, I'm saying it, and for you, you understand what I'm saying, uh, but for other people may not. And here's another reference that I use, but you're probably not going to see it much in there. It's just a little bit in the shoulder pads.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's not the same, but it was an idea to work off of, and I'm looking back and forth and going, okay, that's pretty cool. But then this, I wanted to look. I don't know. Like I said, I really liked looking at Blame and some animes that are black and white,
Yeah.
and none of this is exactly taken from anything, but conglomeration of like four different references created that guy. But I wanted to create with this guy is the ability to replicate this guy from any angle. So now that I know how his shoulder pads work, now that I know how the armor works for the chest versus, the actual main torso, and how it bolts on to where the cup was and how the different leg segments are. All of this stuff now I can replicate it from different angles because I'm pretty sure I did that here. I'll close this window. Yeah, I did that with this and this. So this is one angle and this is another angle, but you can see clearly the same design.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to achieve with that guy. That's also why I took my time just focusing on that guy. That's what I'm going to do with this guy too. This is your blood guild guy. This is your military. Doesn't have his helmet on, but it looks like he's military and cop kind of combined. And I'm trying to find a decent upshot to use for him. The problem is when you type upshot and look at upshots.
Yeah.
It can be a really extreme upshot, so that you're basically looking at his knees and he's standing at this angle, which is no good. It's not gonna work for what I need. I also noticed a trend of when I do a search and I do a search for an upshot or a mouse eye view or an eagle eye view. If I do a mouse eye view, I often get an eagle eye view. Like they should know better just from mouse to eagle. One's on the ground and one's not, but the results come up so mixed. It's really weird.
Digital Tantrum said, "Did you ever use drawing reference apps where it gives you a model you can pose and rotate around?"
Not really. If you haven't noticed, I'm not really the most technical of guys. I like it to be more hands-on. I like it to be more me actually drawing, from what I see, which is, I guess it's more traditional, right? To actually draw from a model. Like if I had a model in the room, I'd do that, but it's really weird. A 3D model, I'd have to have a separate program running for that, and just too much effort for me. I like to draw.
They also have those desktop pose maquettes, which are like little anatomy figures you can pose.
Yeah. Yep. I know what a maquette is. I wish I was better skilled at making maquettes. Mike Hoffman made an entire city mecca. Like, literally made garages and dumpsters and, trash cans that were dented and litter on the street and everything so that he could light it from different angles because he was drawing a comic that was set in this particular setting. And then after all that work, and he then put in 20 pages or something, they canceled the magazine. I'm like, man, I would be using that shit. You cancel it, but that's not going to stop me. All right. I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Kind of like you too.
Body. Yep. Yeah. I've seen those.
What's that?
Digital Tantrum has put some links in on Twitch. And the first one, Body Cundles or whatever, is and then the second one was Sticky Bones. And I'm pretty certain I've seen Sticky Bones before.
Well, I don't know if these are the same things, but I've got plenty of reference photos of different angles and stuff, but what I'm looking for that's different is that I want something with drapery versus, like, most of the modeling stuff that I have, they show either nudity or mostly nudity so that you can get muscle tone, and that's fine, but I don't really need that right now. I need the drapery. I'm going to mute this because I don't know how loud it's going to be over here for a few.
There you go. We're going to vibe for a moment. Ugh. Digital Tantrum, that wasn't a little dance. That was a massive dance. Because I am massive. I'm just grooving to the tunes. We are listening to, I think it's down in the description. What is it called?
It is down in the description of the YouTube video.
Incompetech by Kevin McLeod?
Yep.
The Clan McLeod? I'm sure he's never heard that before.
Well, No, in Compotech, Kevin MacLeod is the composer and musician.
Right.
Compotech is the whatever. He's got a series like you can use it. It's licensed to anyone. You just have to copy and paste the license and tell who in the description did it. And there's been it's kind of like movie soundtrack stuff. It's not very long, but
Digital Tantrum said, "I'll bet you there is only one of him." I'm sure he's never heard those jokes, ever. Digital Tantrum, can you really not hear this on Twitch? I turned it up. Oh, okay.
Now it's up to 25, and it's probably going to be too loud.
See, that's the thing. Like, I can never tell. It's what I don't. I guess I don't like that about StreamYard. It's kind of hard to tell where the volume is. But
it's also not always the same. Like the volume on Twitch is not the same as the volume on YouTube or the volume on StreamYard. So it's kind of hard to tell sometimes.
Yeah, my kids will sit there and say I'm deaf because I was watching something on Netflix on our TV downstairs, and then I'll leave and they'll put it on YouTube, and yeah, it's god awful loud. And I'm like, it's not the same, people. Like, you're not dumb. You should be able to figure that out.
Also, probably your age.
Yeah.
I know my age is. I'm listening to things louder. Of course, when I was young, I'm pretty sure I almost blew my eardrums out listening to loud music.
So earlier today, I took my son out. I drove him out to the mall because that's a giant empty parking lot for the most part. And
my son that's learning to drive, I take it.
Yeah. Last time I let him drive, he drove up the sidewalk. So I thought a parking lot might be a better place. And, let him get used to the vehicle. Let him. I had him driving in reverse for a while. Oh God, he hated that. I was like, you need to know how to drive in reverse, like not like continuously, but you need to understand how that feels. And I'd rather do it where there's nothing you can hit. But
yeah, that's pretty good thinking.
I drove around the mall just to make sure that I was.
There's never nothing. There's never nothing you can hit.
Well, yeah, I know. But so I drove around the mall first to make sure it all connected without really having to go on the road. And which I was pretty sure, but I was like, just so he can see where he's going. And I had him drive around the mall a few times. And there was one section, I didn't think anything about it. There was like this area of potholes that was kind of in our way that I just drove around. Well, first time my son gets in it, and I see he's aiming towards this section. And I'm like, potholes. And apparently that means aim for the potholes. Because I swear he hit like all of them. Like he had to go like I thought it was funny, but he thought I was going to get mad at him. And I was like, you drove my car up the curb onto the sidewalk, and I didn't yell at you. Why would I? I was like, it's a car. You're going to do stupid stuff. You have to know how to deal with stupid stuff. Like, I'm pretty laid back on this. It's like if you do, like if I tell you to stop and you don't, then I will be mad. You know what I mean? But as long as you do what I tell you to do, you know, if you screw it up, well, that's the learning process. But anyway. Ah.
Just noticed that you put something in the private chat.
Oh, well, I figured you'd get to it. Sorry. I put it in the private chat, and then I thought to myself, I have told you. Instead of, I should probably let Rich know. It was like, well, the message has left my body. It's done now. Because I don't know why.
Right now, I'm really only focusing on this guy, so.
All right.
I'm just wanting to look proportionately correct. I think that the Blood Guild, which is what this guy is,
Okay.
wouldn't be showing their face.
All right.
Because
I mean,
the whole point is that you don't know who they are, right?
That is true.
So a representative of the Blood Guild might have a ninja suit on, so to speak.
Oh.
And while I'm not going to draw it as per se Storm Shadow or something, but the idea of having most of it covered up or in a way that you can't see their face seems kind of like a no-brainer to me, I guess. Anyone that watched the last episode when I drew that here knows that I'm just drawing this for scale, so I know proportionately and spatially where it should be at. And because we've got enough shot, the bottom half should be more prominent than the top. I'm going to cover almost all of this stuff.
I just sent you on Discord just a thought. And you said cover up his the face, and partially what it made me think of something similar, but it's just a thought. You know, that whole reference thing, that whole inspiration piece, if you will. But it's there in case you want it. Yeah, last week we almost got a new dog that I really wanted to call Gravy. Huh?
I said, is your old one broke?
No?
Oh, you just needed another member of the family?
My wife saw something from the shelter, and like they posted something, and then she showed it to Thaddeus, and then, you know, whatever. It was a cute dog. I would have enjoyed it, probably. And I really wanted to call it Gravy, but because that way I'd have biscuits and gravy. But they were opposed to that. But my wife's was like, all right, I'll go. Like, she sent us to PetSmart. She said they're having an adoption marathon thing at PetSmart. Go there. When we go there, they're not doing that. We go to the shelter that's closest to PetSmart. They have no idea what we're talking about. Go to the other shelter, which is on the other side of town. And just as we're about to get there, my wife says, oh, they're closed today. They'll be open tomorrow. All right. So we go home. So then, the next day, we go to the shelter. It's closed. Okay. So we go to PetSmart. They're having an adoption marathon. My wife had the wrong day. All right. So, but the dog had been adopted the night before. So if my wife hadn't told us that that the place was closed, there's a good chance we would have gotten the dog because we were going in the morning. But hopefully the dog. I just hope the dog has a good life. I hope she's in a loving family. Blah blah blah. But I was also a little worried about how it would affect Biscuits. On one hand, I was like, I think Biscuits might enjoy having someone to play with. On the other hand, she's jealous of the cats, so the cats don't play with her, or don't play with her much, because cats
are not generally playful.
Well,
unless they're high.
Yeah, or they're mean. Like when cats play, they are a lot meaner than dogs. Like, I think it's fascinating that dogs, pretty well universally, if you're playing with them and they think it's getting rough, they'll sneeze to let you know that they're just playing. Which I just find like, wow. I mean, I know cats develop meowing to mimic human children, and that's creepy as hell. But dogs are like, oh, I need a symbol to let you know that I'm not, that it's not too rough. That it's okay, we're just playing. I just think that's amazing. Digital Tantrum says, I never used to like cats, and now I like certain personalities and breeds. Yeah, I think it comes down to the animal. I mean, some cats are cool, some cats are not. And sometimes it just depends on.
Now, if you were in the 70s, you'd be talking about people. Some cats are cool, some cats are not.
Yeah. True story. See, I think all cats to some degree are asshole cats.
See, I only read part of that statement and I was thinking, yeah, I have only one asshole too.
We have two cats. We have Wicket and we have Baby Cat. And Baby Cat will sit there and be the most loving, affectionate cat. And then she'll be trying to kill you. And it's like, what? Like, what sets this thing off? So it's, on one hand, really cool. Digital Tantrum says, read the whole statement. Context is critical. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's why I posted it, just so that other people would know that I only read part of the statement. Context is almost always critical.
Yes,
Almost
I agree.
always. Especially these days. People want to cherry pick shit and make it look like you're saying something that you're not, because it fits the agenda they want.
Digital Tantrum said, I have one cuddly cat and one that will peel your face off like a serial killer unless you pet him exactly a certain way. I'm just imagining this cat like prancing through your hallway with a human face on it because it's peeled the skin off and it's wearing it. Or maybe it's making a dress out of human skin. Or it dances in front of a mirror and it's like, well, I'm not going to do that because there's a specific line from Silence of the Lambs. Everyone who's seen the movie knows exactly what I'm talking about. Digital Tantrum says, I want to put it past them, probably out of rats and cute small birds.
Yep, all of our animals are in some way fucked up. They're just not right in some way. Like our cat's not an abused cat, but it's like I think that cat consumed a twin in the womb.
Oh,
And he's got extra thumbs, like. And he acts really weird. Sometimes he does some clever stuff, like figuring out how to get through the guard gate to get to his food and cat box and everything, while the dog can't. And then after a while, she moved the curtain. Everything else is in the same position, but now the cat's meowing because it can't figure out how to get out. Like, or it can't get in, but it can get out. And it's the same way. It's like, they're not right in the head. Like that cat will come up and literally put his nose to my nose and want petting and all this other stuff. And the minute I start petting him, he'll come around and bite or something. And I'm like, no, you get the fuck out of here. I don't like you no more for a while.
That's a cat that wants to learn how to fly.
Yep, that's a cat that wants to see how far he can push the human experience.
Oh. Digital Tantrum said he used to be a dog person. Why did you used to be a dog person? Like, I have cats, but I also got a dog because dogs are better. Sorry, cat people. Dogs are better, though.
Yeah, I'm a dog person. My cat thinks it's my cat. And our dog thinks it's my wife's dog. And my wife's a cat person and not a dog person. And I'm a dog person and not a cat person. Interesting, like I said, they're all screwed up. And I'm like, well, at least you're in the right family because we're all screwed up too.
What?
Just trying to decide if that looks right. Like, I want to make sure it looks proportionally and spatially, like with a T. Correct for the scene. I want to make sure she is fitting in the scene. And looks like he's behind leaning over instead of looks like he's just kind of weird shaped. It's all kind of strange because I'm going to actually put an armor on him. I'm basically kind of getting the shape, and then I'm going to go through and put his clothes on. Except
Digital Tantrum said, well, small apartments, family veto for another pet. I also work too much to have a dog. They need more attention. That's true, they do. That is one of the problems, and one of the things I bring up every time my family wants to get another pet, especially a dog. I'm like, it's already hard to visit certain family members because someone needs to hang back and watch the dog, which tends to be me, and I'm okay with that, except for I look antisocial, and I don't get to see family that I like, which there is family that I like, so it's one of those things. Definitely takes more attention, requires more attention. That's kind of why I like them, because they give more attention.
And that's what I'm saying. My animals are screwed up because our dog doesn't really want much attention. He wants to go riding with us. He wants food. Like anytime we eat, he wants food. But other than that, like I'll pet him, but he would rather just lay around, just rather lay by himself. The cat, however, will come up and literally push me with his ass while he fucking plops down next to me, demanding attention, and then he gets too much and gets angry. So
yeah,
our animals are not the basic normal animals.
Digital Tantrum said, yeah, you don't have to walk a cat at 2 a.m. so it doesn't crap in your bedroom. I don't have to walk my dog at 2 a.m., let me tell you. Tell you that right now. My dog is good. She goes to bed, and that's it until I get up. In fact, I'm more likely... Go ahead.
No, I thought you were done. I was just going to say, we can take our dog out to go to the bathroom, and he'll roll in the grass for a minute, and he'll be fine with coming right back in the house. He doesn't seem like a big long walk. It's really weird. We try to take him on walks like to parks and all that because he's abused too, right?
Right.
And he doesn't want to be around other dogs. Doesn't want to be around buildings. Scare him. It's really weird how scared he gets with everything. But yet he barks like he's fucking a big badass junkyard dog,
So we have a problem. One of our cats, well, I feel a little bad for her. She'll claw to come in our bedroom, and it's fine for the most part until she tries to climb. If she wants to get in the window or on top of the dresser, she'll run up the bed onto the headboard, which scares the crap out of my wife, and then she'll climb from the headboard onto the windowsill. Whatever. But she has, like, the other night, she stopped on top of the headboard, decided that was where she wanted to lick her butt. And if she falls, that's about 10 pounds of furry, clawed, just meanness. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to risk it. Like, that is not how I...
Here's a question neither cat nor dog owners have been able to explain to me yet.
What's that?
Why is it no matter whether it's a cat or a dog, if it's going to puke, it will find the carpet? Like, there'll be tons of cardboard floors around it.
Yeah.
It will find the fucking carpet to puke on.
Yeah. Well, what's really terrible is one night I'm up pretty late. It was this summer. Might have been after one of our streams. So I mean, it was late, and I'm downstairs, and the dog is sitting next to me. Like, I'm in my chair and the dog's on the couch. Cat hops up onto the armchair or the arm of the couch and starts. I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. And she horks onto the arm of the couch. I'm like, God bless it. So I go out to get some paper towels, come back. The dog has cleaned it all for me.
Right.
And part of me is like, oh, I'm going to be sick just thinking about that.
And the other part is like, I don't have to clean it up.
Yeah. I'm like, sweet. Awesome dog.
Yeah, like our dog, for some reason, loves to eat cat shit. Because we'll feed him and then we'll leave the gate open for a second, and the first thing he goes for is the cat shit. There's food around, and he goes for the cat shit first. What?
Yeah.
My wife thought, like, maybe he's low on protein. Like, I don't think the cat's shitting out protein.
So,
maybe.
Oh crap! I can't remember what it's called. Oh yeah, Life of Pi. What, have you ever read that?
Read what?
The Life of Pi.
Oh no.
So, I've
Never
never seen
watched the movie.
Well, I've never seen the movie because I never thought like the. On one hand, I should watch the movie because I don't think the movie can do what the book does, and I kind of want to see if the movie does do what the book does. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty cool if you can actually do that. But there's a section of the book where he's talking about his family owned a zoo. They raised animals at this zoo. So like he seems to know quite a bit about animals. And when he gets stuck on a lifeboat when they're moving the zoo from India to Canada, he's stuck on a lifeboat with several animals, but he's supposedly the only human. And one of the animals is a tiger. And eventually it's just him and the tiger. You know.
Right. I mean, that's the previews show that.
Yeah. Now in the book, he grabs some of the tiger's poop and eats it in front of the tiger. So the tiger knows because it's a sign of dominance. And I'm like, okay, if you say it's a sign of dominance.
He wasn't all like, that's great.
Yeah.
Show him you're a tiger. Show him what you can do.
Yeah. Now, if you read the rest of the book, that becomes even more disturbing. And I don't know why it's been more disturbing, but I find it more disturbing once you know the whole book. But, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that's really stuck with me all through I mean, it's probably 15 years since I read that book. Because I was working on renewing my license for like the first time. So I was taking some classes. I was surprised by that book, though. I was fully prepared to dislike it, and part of that's just because I have a general. I've never liked reading classes. I've never liked the assignments that you get in those. I've never liked the readings out of textbooks. I always thought they were dumb, which is not really true because I teach the ones I teach are the ones I like. Or the ones that I find at least interesting. And a lot of them are just, ugh. And this is me getting on my soapbox for a little bit. But when most of your lower grades where you learn how to read are run by women and they choose things based off of a sensibility that is not necessarily conducive to boys. And then we wonder why boys have a harder time reading. And I'm like, we're picking stuff that's going to be more entertaining for the girls. And girls aren't at that stage. They're developmentally ahead for most students. And so they already have a leg up. Now, granted, there will be boy students who are the top readers a lot of times, but they will also dominate the low readers. Like, that's just generally how it works. And then you'll have girls who are great. Don't get me wrong. There's a reason why valedictorians are almost always women now. But it's one of those things I've never liked about public education. Like boys don't want safe things to read. They want dangerous things. They want adventure. And it's all the kind of stuff that school just is, that's not appropriate. Why isn't it appropriate? So I think that's done a huge disservice to a lot of people. And if you look at the studies, with boys and reading rates and all that kind of stuff, we are doing a terrible job. I would like to think, Rich, that you and I are helping to combat that by providing a better product.
I would like to think that. Because that's what I'm, particularly, I guess that's what I'm doing, the project I'm doing currently for, is to make it more exciting for boys to read, but accessible to anybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's not like this is for boys. No, it's not like that at all.
I don't think that danger and adventure is only specifically for boys. I know my daughter, she liked, what was it? The other Brandon Mull.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
The books that he wrote. Hold on a second. Fablehaven.
Okay.
So the Fablehaven books they're young adult books. They have a sense of danger. Like there's these kids are going out into. I haven't read it, so I can only tell you little bits about what she told me. But like they're going out into this garden that has mystical applications, but it has dangers and all this other stuff too. But she loved those books. The Chronicles of Ancient Darkness. Have you read those?
Nope.
I like them. I read them to my kids, and they loved them. But I like them myself. Michelle Paver. It's young adult. I think it's maybe borderline mid-grade to young adult, but there's a lot of danger there, but there's a lot of adventure there where it's basically trying to teach kids about dinosaurs and ancient cultures, not really dinosaurs, but like cave bears and saber-tooth, things that we're supposed to just trying to get it historically or scientifically accurate or whatever. But it's about these clans, this one kid that was excommunicated from a clan. And there's like a magic system to their beliefs. So the northern clans are like Eskimos. There's other clans that are seal eaters, but it presents it in a way where this kid's trying to escape a possessed cave bear. And it's from the very beginning he's trying to escape. He's pretty young and he's trying to escape a possessed cave bear. But he finds allies along the way. My connection is doing some weird stuff, at least it's telling me it's doing some weird stuff. So if I start roboting or whatever, then not sorry. But that's a good set of books if you haven't read it. They're quick reads.
Well, I mean, just to clarify, I'm not saying that there aren't girls that like adventure stories or that boys can't like the same stories that girls like. It's not what I'm saying.
No, I didn't think that was. Okay. I wanted to clarify that not. Let me think what I want to say before I say it wrong. And I wanted to clarify that choosing a book based on adventure and danger isn't necessarily just a boy thing, but women know that developing girls are more interested in relationships and romances and stuff like that, whereas boys aren't as much. So these books that I'm recommending, you have your romance element, but it's not an overpowering element. It's like Moonlighting for the first few seasons, where there was a lot of tension but nothing resolved.
Right.
I forget who it was that said. I think Orson Scott Card said it, that if you have a lot of sexual tension like that, the worst thing you can do is have those two characters get together, because when you do, the show's over because everybody's watching it for them to get together.
Right.
So that should be the natural ending. But what you're talking about is, like with female administrators maybe, or female teachers choosing the reading material, but they're choosing the reading material based on what they think younger readers would like, because they're women. They're all, naturally oriented towards women. Like, if you don't describe somebody, and chances are someone's going to picture it's a guy, right? If you don't describe somebody, just some character's doing something and it has an ambiguous name, the natural proclivity is to fall towards imagining it as a guy. Or if you're a girl, maybe imagining it as a girl, but a lot of girls imagine it as a guy too, right?
Yep.
So they specifically want to change that and make it inclusive. But that whole inclusive trap, where the more that it's technically inclusive, the less it's actually inclusive.
You need to double speak.
Right, but that's the deciding thing, is that they're deciding on the inclusivity, but really what they mean is girls need to decide for a change. But really, girls have been deciding for how long? Because like you said, who's the most common readers, or who's the most common that is the most common demographic for readers, right? Demographic. That's tattooing.
Well, it's also a matter of the textbooks are trying to go with whatever is the safest thing they can find. And, it's like, all right, yeah, because what everyone wants is the safe thing. That makes for good education.
I don't even think girls want the safe thing. They just
they don't. But
different kind of danger, right?
I would argue. I wouldn't argue with my students. I would get people, they complain about like these essay prompts. These are boring essay prompts. I'm like, did you think that College Board was going to care about having an interesting writing prompt? Like, If it's interesting to you, sweet, but they don't care at all.
Yeah,
it was interesting. It was interesting to someone who wrote the question, and that's all that really matters to them. And your job is not to appreciate it. I think it's cool if you do, but your job is to write the response that's required. And some of them would. It was something interesting, and I guarantee, if I give you something that you think is interesting, most of the class will not find it interesting. I was like, and I would tell them this all the time. But I get it. I understand why you want something interesting to write about. But I used to always throw out this nugget that the job of the writer is to make anything interesting.
I was just gonna say, like, that my advice is, because coming from a tattoo background where you're basically a service for somebody else, you're doing what somebody else wants, because you're not, if you get into tattooing thinking that you're going to be tattooing whatever the fuck you want to, you're getting into it for the wrong reasons, and you're not going to make much money. So that's exactly the advice I give them, is that it's not going to be interesting all the time. It's rarely going to be interesting on its face. So what you need to do is represent it in a way that would be interesting if it was yours. So you need to be able to put yourself in the mind of the client and go, if I wanted a orchid, how would I want it to be represented? How would I want it to be lit? How, what would the drama be? And I also had a tendency to ask, them their reasons for getting a tattoo, because often in the reasoning for getting a tattoo, you can also find elements that you can add. But you're not going to like every tattoo, especially if you're a guy and you're doing a lot of girl tattoos. And there are guys that like to do feminine type stuff. So I'm not saying that there wouldn't be any, but it's in the same context what you're talking about. What's boring for a lot of those kids, there might be a kid or two that would still be excited about that idea, but it's rarer, right?
Right. And this idea that everything that should be catered to your interests, I'm like, yes, that's cool.
It would be nice.
Well, it's. I mean, part of it is, and it's the art of education, I suppose. But you get administrators who are crazy, and they think that, well, you need to make every lesson, and make sure that you make it should appeal to the interests of every student. And I'm always like, nothing in life appeals to everything or everyone. Like, it doesn't exist. And I get trying to appeal to student interest, but this idea, I mean, that's having a goal that is impossible. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. I have something I have to take care of. Hold on.
That's make it a democracy and let the students choose the lessons. Well, yeah, because students don't really do that. I know, like, I taught and teach art, um, maybe a more specific form, but still. Some students just want everything handed to them. Some students really want to learn some stuff, but the other students would be against it. So that's a pretty hard call there to make. I know you're joking, but I think that would be awesome if we could rely on that. Well, I'm saying, so tell me what you want to learn, because I think beyond, and this is where I'm probably going to differ from Brett, but I think that beyond certain simple principles, you should be allowed to, or even promoted to, working in a field of your interest. That's the problem that I had with college. I was going to be a history teacher, and I looked into going to college, and it was like one course of history with 3 courses of advanced math. And I'm like, what the fuck? Historically, you don't need advanced math.
No.
Like all of the math and history, 90% of the math and history, I say all of it, but 90% of it's already documented. The weight that a ship will take, what the store numbers are, you can get an idea of what it takes to supply men for 6 months out on a ship in the 1700s by looking at their roster, looking at their pressers list. I'm trying to remember. Muster, right?
Okay.
But when you talk about like gunships or whatever, there's a certain weight for how many guns that they have, because it has to be able to displace a certain amount of weight when it fires. But I don't need to know that. I don't need to do the math to figure that shit out. It's already been done. It was done in that time period. I just need to know where to find it, right? But yeah, I mean, it would be great if you could say, what do you want to learn about, and help them excel at what they're wanting to learn about. And I think that's what the purpose of schooling should be, really. Is that you should just tell them what you want to further yourself. If I want to be a writer and I want to be a better writer, that's what I would be focusing on, right? Like,
well, there are some state standards. Like you have to address state standards. So the state has decided that certain things have to be taught, and those things, despite whatever the state says, those things are really just the things that they test on. If they don't test on it, they don't care, and so that's fine. But one of the things that I did in my class, I tried to have a short reading pretty much every single day, a short reading with some questions. And so I just asked them for a list of topics. And then I would, because I don't care what they read, I care how they're reading, if that makes sense. I care about the skills going into interpreting the information and all that kind of stuff. That's really what I'm interested in.
Yeah, you're talking about reading comprehension, right?
Right. So, I let them tell me what things and I found articles on those things. Some of them were stupid. I mean, there was some rapper that I don't remember who was terrible. But I found an article on him. Because I could make questions based off of the skill. You're like, all right, this article works for this. And it's really, I mean, it takes time. I don't know if I'll be doing that this year, perhaps. It just depends. But I mean, but even then, the students know that they're getting, they got to choose the topic. They got the topic.
I don't know how much of what I was saying that you heard, but I was talking about that there are certain basics that you need to learn, and schools should provide that. That would be reading, writing, simple arithmetic that's used every day. But beyond the basics, beyond the things that everybody should know, then that's when I was talking about having a student should be able to pursue what they want to know from there.
Well,
just that was the topic.
The problem with American public education on that front is the American system is about breadth, not depth. And you can find other places where they go into depth and not breadth. And the stuff that they know, they do very, very well. And I personally think that might be kind of better, which is kind of what you're talking about, having basics.
I'm not deciding what all the basics are, but how many times have you heard, and it is tired and it's cliche, but how many times have you heard teach them to do their taxes, or teach them to, these are the simple things that you need to have in life and all that. And that's really not a lot of what you find. It's not that that's not available or that they don't teach it. I don't know. I can't speak for your school, but we did have a certain amount of tax. Of course, I'm not the same generation as what's going on now, but
trust me, there's all kinds of stuff that gets taught that nobody pays attention to. How comes I was never taught this? It's like, because you were in the bathroom vaping. It'll be okay.
Yeah, we did receive, or it was available for us to receive information about taxes and all that stuff. I think it's more today because kids don't really care to learn any of that shit. They have had it all handed to them. Like when we were told you're not going to have a calculator all the time, but now they have a calculator all the time, right? So it's like anything that a teacher says is suspect because they've been lied to before or whatever. It's just, I don't know. I think that there's a mentality today that everybody expects you to hand them the answers. I see it all the time in the fan server where somebody's asking for a reference. Like, you can Google a reference as much as I can Google a fucking reference.
Yeah.
Like, so you need me to tell you how to specify what you're looking for? Well, this angle, that angle. Well, it's an upshot. So look up upshot. Find the correct upshot. If you can't find it there, do something else. Like, if you're looking to draw superheroes, look for something that's similar to what you would need. Like, I say, look up athletes. Look up bodybuilders working out. Look up I can't remember what they are right now, but the ones that do the intense training.
CrossFit?
Yeah, CrossFit. And you'll find people actually doing stuff, like you're lifting boulders and throwing stuff and jumping and running and everything that you need to do to draw a superhero. And probably there'll be a lot of camera angles that you need. But why don't I tell people this 10 times? Like, why do I have to look up a specific example for them? You don't know how to use Google?
I will say this, though. If you don't know the terminology, it can become difficult to look it up.
I don't know. I've looked up stuff that I couldn't find the terminology. They will make suggestions,
Oh,
but if you're looking,
I'm not
if you're
saying
looking
it's impossible. I'm saying it's just. And I'm not defending. I'm not really trying to defend them. I'm simply saying that if you don't know the terminology, it's going to be harder. If you know the terminology, if you know the vocabulary, then I think it is. I just think it's easier for. Well, for you to talk about it, but also for you to look things up. And it's one of the reasons why earlier, and you've done this tonight, where you've gone through and you were like, this is an upshot, and like you've talked about like the basics of it, which I think it helps push that vocabulary out, so that if people are watching stuff like this or other videos, I mean, you can watch every struggling writer pretty much has a YouTube channel that has writing tips. I watch lots of them, and I'm like, yeah, it's rare when I find something I haven't already heard. But hey, someone somewhere hasn't heard it, and they're going to hear it there for the first time, and it's going to influence them, and that's all cool. But once you get, there was an instructor I had. He called it the discourse community, and what it was is you understand the language that people who are interested in this use. And if you understand that language, you may not understand all the concepts of whatever it is that you're talking about, but you can get to that information a lot faster. And you understand things that are being implied and things that are being kind of taught, they're just accepted, even if they're not necessarily something you should accept. So, I mean, I like seeing it when you go through and talk about how, the guy on the right is not an upshot and how you come up with those things, because I think it expands the vocabulary of viewers if they want it and don't have it. So good job.
Right. Well, I'm not talking about the people that don't know what to look for as much as the people that even when you tell them, they just want you to do it for them.
Oh, that's true.
It's not that they don't understand what they're looking for, because they can describe it to you.
Right. That's true.
If you can type it out to me so that I understand it, you can type it out to Google. You may not get as many search results, or you may get suggestions. Usually, if it's not an exact thing, there'll be a few suggestions on the top. And they just expect you to find the picture that they're looking for, not that angle, about this angle. So, how about you just do that then?
Yeah, really.
Like,
oh, I didn't know I was a search feature for you.
Or they'll ask about tutorials, like somebody explaining to me how to do three-point perspective or whatever. But, okay, first of all, it's the David Finch fan server, and there's an entire section called David's YouTube videos. So David's YouTube videos are basically divided up into two groups: tutorials and Monday night draws, where you actually just watch him drawing it. So you can, either way, you win. And 90% of the time on his Monday night draws, when he's sitting there drawing, someone will ask him a question. He will stop the drawing, pull a spare piece of paper over, and draw a little bit in the corner to show you what he means or how you get effects or whatever. So they're just not taking the time to look stuff up for what they want. And then I'll tell them there's a section called references and resources. What do you figure that would be?
Oh.
Right? I mean, just off the top of your head, talking in an artist community, what do you think references and resources would be?
That's a conundrum.
No, because it's pretty much anything that you can use as a reference or a resource. So, like if you need a site where your references of bodies, figures, or whatever, there's almost always something if you scroll up or something in the pins. If you need to learn, yeah, right. If you need to learn perspective, there's videos on first, 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, 3-point perspective, and 3-point perspective from a mouse eye view, 3-point perspective from a bird's eye view, and then there are other perspectives. Did you know that there are more than 3-point perspectives? There's a 5-point perspective. There's 4-point perspectives. There's much more. There's one that shows you if you got a horizon line right here, and your vanishing point is right here for everything, but you want to put an object in the room that's not facing your vanishing point, there's a video that shows you how to do that. So it's just a matter of looking to see what's there.
I'm reading this thing from Digital Tantrum, and I put it up on screen.
Yeah, I'm trying to read it too.
I don't want to interrupt your flow.
No, that's what I was saying is that there are tutorials and references for everything, like color, tone, values, watercolor paintings, oil color paintings.
A curriculum that outlines what and in what order you should learn. Like, that's amazing. Like, and he gives that away for free? I'm just saying, there are some people you and I might possibly know who, basically have reworded the advice given by a bunch of other people. And,
yeah, right. Make a living off of it?
Yeah. When your publishing credits are more about your how to write book than anything else. But I digress. And I have never met that guy in person.
I've seen a few of them, actually, that now that you mention it. Have you ever heard of the Mother of the Matrix?
The Mother of the Matrix. I have not.
So, this woman claims that Terminator and the Matrix were stolen from her book. Okay?
Oh. Terminator, which was stolen from
Harlan Ellison.
Yeah.
Who sued and has his name on the movie. Yeah.
I think we've already gone through this, but okay.
Well, no, yeah, I'm not going through that again. This woman is claiming that the Matrix, basically mostly the Matrix, but Terminator 2, was stolen from her ideas. Now, we know that you can't copyright an idea, right?
Right.
You can copyright the way you tell an idea. That's all. Like this idea, somebody could take it and they rewrite it in their own way. We see it all the time in Hollywood when there's like 10 generic versions of a movie that come out with Dune, That's like Dune, but not Dune.
Or, when there was that Armageddon and the other movie that was like the exact same movie, only slightly different.
Was it Core or something like that? I don't know.
I didn't
watch either one of those, so
I watched them both. You can tell how much I remember.
So this woman, there's a guy. Like I was watching these short videos, and this guy's like, "Watch what the Mother of the Matrix, and or the creator of the writer of the Matrix and Terminator has to say." So I looked up who the writers for them were, and the Wachowskis is the Matrix.
Yeah,
we knew that, but they wrote and directed it.
Right.
And James Cameron, his ex-wife, which is the only woman that's listed on the writers for Terminator. And we know where he got his basic story from. We're not need to go into that again, but the major point is that she's talking about The Matrix and yeah, right. That I wasn't there yet. Yeah. So
Sorry.
the Matrix and Terminator. Terminator is a prequel to the Matrix, and John Connors is an allegory for Jesus Christ, who also is Neo, the One.
Right.
So Sarah Connor is Neo's mom. So
Okay.
if you go and look at the book, and I went to go look up the book to see, and this is related to what you were saying. She's got one book. No, she's got 3 books. All 3 of them are on this particular book.
Huh.
But the actual book is a novelette? Novella? No, novelette. It's not even a novella. And the actual book that you can buy, 90% of it's her laying out her case of why they stole shit from her.
Oh my God.
Because in her book, there are aliens,
Okay.
which there are no aliens. there are no aliens in either one of those movies. But the aliens say, we'll be back. So that has to be stolen from her work. It's ridiculous. I mean, so she's basically talking about how it's a story about how evil and machinery are one thing, and then the savior of humanity is Jesus.
Oh.
But she wrote it in sci-fi form, and so I went to look it up in Amazon, and then I looked at the reviews, right? And it's like got the biggest chunk of 1-star reviews that I've ever seen for a single book. And it's not like more than the likes, but when you read them, the 1-star reviews are like, it's all her laying out her case, which should not have existed if that's the actual novel, right? It shouldn't have all that stuff. It should just have the novel. It's like it's almost at the end that she does the story, which is basically a long short story, and it's full of typos. And it's like littered with typos, and it doesn't have anything to do with either one of those movies. And it's like you can read the reviews, and the 5 and 4-star reviews are all they're just keeping a black woman down. and the 1-star reviews are all like, it's garbage. You have to read through all this bullshit court case evidence crap just to get to a story that sucks. And then there's 2 versions of it. There's the manuscript version and the cleaned up version. And both of them are loaded with typos and unoriginals. One of them was like, she just basically rewrote the Bible, like in a short story with a whole bunch of typos, as said as science fiction. So, but yeah, I'd never heard of her before that, like TikTok video or whatever the hell it was that I stumbled on, and I looked it up, and I was like, wow. Like, I know for a fact that James Cameron took Terminator from 2 stories that were written by Harlan Ellison, because they were both Outer Limits episodes, and James Cameron said so in an interview. So it's not like we're guessing. It's not like Harlan Ellison just made that shit up to sue him. He said so in an interview. He said, "Oh, I stole it basically from 2 episodes of Outer Limits, and that was Demon with a Glass Hand and Soldier."
Right. I was looking up some of the timeline of this stuff, like while you were talking, and yeah, her book comes out in 1981.
Right.
Ellison's stuff was from 1957.
Right.
So I think
he probably ripped him off too.
Yeah, he should sue. This is like this is this Amazon page. Stewart's epic story created 2 of Hollywood's biggest franchises.
Right.
Like, that to me sounds like they're just dying to be sued for false advertising.
Yeah, except I think Amazon will say that they didn't do that. That's somebody else's claim.
Yeah,
they probably have
the author.
They probably have some release. They're not responsible for the claims of the author or publisher or whatever.
Yeah, not cool though. Not cool.
Well, that's like me telling you about the guys that were bestsellers.
Yeah.
Because they opened at a #1 spot. Like, they're selling historic fiction, but they opened at a #1 spot about books about archery. What? First of all, you don't even have any archery in the book.
Right.
You have one Viking shooting a guy with some arrows. That's it. That's the #1 book on archery. Yeah. And to claim that you're a bestseller because of that, that's disingenuous.
So yeah, you find a category tangentially related to something in your book,
Right, and very small.
That probably isn't going to sell any books most days, so that you can be a bestseller.
Oh. Yeah, like at the time that he was bestseller and claiming that, I shouldn't have said he, but at the time that person was a bestseller and claiming it, I looked it up because I was going to congratulate the person because he's on my friends list. And I looked it up, and there was only one purchase. Like, how are you a bestseller with one purchase? And I looked at it, I was like, that's not even, you used to be able to look at a book and it would tell you how many categories it was in.
Yeah.
Right? That's not even happening here now. It doesn't even tell you the categories that it's in, just what it's rated in for categories.
Wow.
So I don't even know, like, I'm not saying that he planned it that way, because I don't think he planned it that way, but
it worked.
Yeah, like he just used it, and I guess I don't blame him for using whatever he thinks can give him a head up or whatever, but like that is misleading. It's not a book about archery. I don't know if he even read that it's #1 in archery and just instead of just seeing it's #1 and celebrating, right? I'm just not sure what. Yeah, I'm not sure where he is on that, but what I do know is it's complete crap because the book's not about archery. It's about the Vikings invading the Saxons, and archery wasn't big in England until the Crusades, the Second Crusade, like King Edward II. That's who made everybody. That might have even been the 100 Years' War. But yeah, he made everybody practice at the butts, which is what they call the straw targets for archery.
Yeah.
That was required. Everybody that was a citizen of the UK at that time, it was England, whatever, you had to do that. It was not a question of whether you were good at it. You had to be passable. Otherwise, you were conscripted into something that you didn't want to be conscripted into. That's why it's more than likely if there was an actual Robin Hood, he would have fallen into, I think, Edward II. Now I'm questioning myself. Is it Edward II or Henry II? There's too many kings with numbers after their names.
Well, I just saw a submission or a call for submissions, and it says 1,000 to 5,000 words. These are firm limits, and firm is in italics. These are firm limits. And then the next sentence is shorter or longer works will be considered. I think, I don't think you understand what a firm limit is if you're saying you don't really have to follow the limits. So, not quite sure what they're going for when they say it's a firm limit and then instantly contradict themselves.
Right.
You know what's kind of funny about that Mother of the Matrix thing? And her, Spawn 2, the biggest franchises. All right. For the most part, both of those franchises should have been over a long time ago. Because they have not.
Arguably after the first one.
Well, Terminator 2, I'd say after the second one. Because it was cool.
Yeah, I don't think that I saw anything in Terminator 2 that I needed to.
That is actually kind of accurate because the technology was better, but it's basically the same story.
And I expected when I don't know about what you expected, but my expectation for Terminator 2, from reading the comic books that were put out around that time,
yeah.
I expected the origin of Terminators, the ones that were before the Schwarzenegger version. That was T-1000, right?
Okay.
The first ones, the earlier ones in the comic books, they tried women first and dogs. So they were less. They were less. Yeah, they were. They appeared to be more vulnerable to humans, and then they went against that. But I also wanted to see John Connor as a commander. You know what I mean? And they really didn't show me that at all, ever.
Yeah, I don't think they've had a good. This is the battle. Like they did that. Whichever one had Christian Bale in it, they tried to kind of show that, but I think they kind of screwed that one up too.
Christian Bale, was that Genesis?
I don't
thought
think
that
so.
was Sam Worthington was Genesis, right? Same guy that played in the Clash of the Titans, the new Clash of the Titans. And...
I think he's. I don't know, but Digital Tantrum said it's Salvation, but he liked Genesis, or he said Genesis was okay.
I don't know which one's which because after a while they're just all crap to me.
Yeah, because they're all basically the same. And
well, it's a time paradox, so what can you do?
Right. Well, and you know, when you look at the first one versus the second one, you know, the first one was low budget, and the second one was high budget, and I would say that's why the second one still works. But after that, every time, you know, it's like you're not really doing anything we haven't already seen. Like the second one offered us, this is what the first one would have been had it been a high budget film, and so that worked. But we haven't been offered anything. I don't think.
Did it really offer us that?
It's a great movie. I am never going to complain about Terminator 2. I could watch either one. They are both great. Digital Tantrum said Genesis was the girl from Game of Thrones. But
which girl from Game of Thrones?
Yeah,
that's kind of vague.
Yeah. Well.
There's a lot of girls in Game of Thrones. And you can't even say the naked girl in Game of Thrones. Or the one that's screwing her brother in be specific. Naked one. Was she like one of the young ones that was with, like, is it Edward Furlong was in that one, maybe?
Yeah, the naked blonde girl from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Amelia Clark?
Yeah, I recognize the name. The one that was Daenerys.
She was in
and then
the
she
Solo
complained
movie.
later on that she had to do the nude scene. Like, she didn't know that she was getting into doing a nude scene in the first place, right?
I can understand being willing to do a nude scene and still not liking it.
Yeah, but
I mean, she cashed that check, so I have no pity.
She knew damn well what she was getting into, is what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm not saying she doesn't have a right to be uncomfortable with it. Was it
right?
Lena Headey and somebody else that was in the movie that refused to be on screen together because they had a relationship before? Jeremy, what the hell is his name? The dude that played in Whipper Street.
Jeremy Irons?
No.
It's the only Jeremy I can think of.
Jeremy Irons wasn't either in Ripper Street or Game of Thrones.
Well, I haven't seen either one, so I wouldn't know.
Bennett Drake, Jerome Flynn. That's what it was. Jerome Flynn. He's got a kind of scarred face. What else was he in? Soldier, Game of Thrones, 1923, of course. John Wickfrey. He had a relationship with Lena Headey, I'm pretty sure. And they both refused to be on screen together, so whenever the characters were on screen together, there was a stand-in from behind or something like that.
Yeah.
No, I liked him in Ripper Street. He was pretty good. I'm surprised you haven't watched that yet.
I don't watch a lot of Buffy things anymore.
It's basically kind of steampunk Jack the Ripper. Kinda. Or weird West East Jack the Ripper. I think Natalie Dormer's in it too. No, that's not. That's not who I thought it was. Matthew McFadden's in it. Adam Rothenberg.
It's on Crackle.
What's on Crackle?
Ripper Street.
Oh, I saw it on Netflix. Either way, it doesn't matter what you see it on. And it is a TV show, basically, so.
Well, I see that. It's like 4 seasons.
I liked it. It's like the Frankenstein Chronicles, I want to say, with Sean Bean. I mean,
I
it
started watching those.
definitely got politically correct after a while, but I thought it was pretty good overall, despite that, you know.
So, out of curiosity, when you say it got politically correct, do you mean that they injected modern politics into it?
Yes, and characters that would not have been like that in that time period. As is the want nowadays, really.
Yeah, I don't.
And it is a changing of history. It's not an actual representation of history.
Right.
Even though that's not supposed to be, it's supposed to be the same sci-fi fantasy as Mary Shelley's, because Mary Shelley's a character in it. But so if you're talking about when Robert Peel first creates the very first police force, which is why they're called Bobbies, is because of Robert Peel. Bobbies or Peelers, they used to be called. You're not going to have a black private investigator running around putting his nose in everything at that time period, because
No.
yeah, it just wouldn't happen. You know,
Right.
it's like women doing that too. Not saying that women didn't have rights or ways to be spies or whatever, or
Right.
ways to manipulate. So I'm not going to go back into this whole gender argument again, but it did inject characters that wouldn't have been realistic for that time period. That's just what I'm saying, is that for me, who is a student of history, I guess, it's really hard to swallow when they do that kind of thing, because it's just not believable.
So,
It scares me out of the narrative.
if the story was in a secondary world,
Yeah,
and
that's a different story.
okay, that's what I want. I was just trying to kind of see where you're
No,
bound.
like if you're writing, for example, your quick Vandalier stories,
Yeah,
I don't feel like they're set in this world.
they are not.
So
They are secondary world.
if you're having, you know, a black character that's a judge, even though that probably would have been less likely in the Old West,
Right.
because I don't feel like that's
Actually,
the actual historical place, it doesn't tear me out of the narrative. But when it's supposed to be an actual historical place, and they literally, when you say Sir Robert Peel is hiring Sean Penn's character to actually be the first pretty much investigator or whatever, you really narrow that time frame down, right?
Right. Yeah, I was just trying to, because some people don't like, and this gets kind of nuanced, but like when they go with Tolkien and they want to inject all this, you know, like they want to put a bunch of black characters in, or have black hobbits, and there's very little evidence of that in Tolkien's writings.
I
But-
don't know if I know of a singular character that he had that was black. I will say my caveat after you say your caveat.
Well, I don't think he had any that were expressed as being black, because he was going off of Northern European mythology and stuff. So
That's nearly my caveat. My caveat is why he was doing it, because he was trying to create the mythology for England, and
Right.
naturally, England didn't have a natural black population. The closest would have been the Moors, and that's 2 continents away. At least. Like, I mean, 2 continents away, or maybe at least 1 continent away, like in Spain or whatever.
Yeah, okay. So, some people get grumpy when but I'm like, okay. If I'm writing a Forgotten Realms book or a Dragonlance book, I don't think it matters what race the person is at all, in any way, shape, or form. If you want to make a black character doing this, that, or whatever, because those are completely secondary worlds, and they're just doing fantasy, 100%. So I have no problem. But when you have a setting that has been determined by the author to be Northern European, yeah, it's weird how there's a lot of Japanese and Chinese literature that astonishingly also doesn't have a lot of diversity. Shocking. It's like, yeah, why is it only so whatever?
Well, yeah, because Japanese, particularly, anyone that wasn't Japanese was less than a man, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's right. But that's okay. You can adapt that. That was the problem that I had with Shogun, is that they modernized Mariko, and they had her like talking back to Toranaga and all this other shit. There's no way. There's no way. And in the book, it specifically did not do that, because he was trying to introduce us to the different ways of the Japanese people and give us kind of that experience, right? So we would not have had a modernized character in Mariko, where she's basically telling them where the bear's shedding the buckwheat. That's not going to happen.
It's weird how the diversity cops always seem to be swinging in one direction only. And, basically they're saying, there can be no culture or heritage that might be anything but, it's got to have all the races in it, supposedly. Unless you're a minority, in which case you can have your own stuff, but it should still have other minorities. You just don't have to have white people.
See, the funny thing when you talk about fantasy, right?
Right.
Is that a lot of the fantasy that I read when I was a kid, they were described the skin color. The only time that I've seen, I'm saying maybe Conan's, and if you go back to Robert E. Howard, the only time that you really get a skin color, like really named, is when he's talking about other skin colors. He doesn't specifically say white or whatever. He might say a pale skin character, but he doesn't run around going, all these guys are white guys. You just imagine that the Vanaheim, who sound like, Vikings or whatever, and they have red hair, you're going to assume that they're going to look like Vikings or look like Nordic people, right?
Right. And there's also the artwork that goes on the cover.
Well, yeah, but that's artwork. He wasn't doing that artwork, and what we think of as Conan wasn't created till Frank Frazetta. The Conan that was represented prior to Frank Frazetta, and by description in Robert E. Howard, he has a square-cut mane. And I've seen people argue over what a square-cut mane would look like, and they mostly want to say that it would look like a bowl cut. I think Frazetta got it right on. That it was just cut straight across his brow as much as it can be to get it out of his eyes, and straight across on the back, get it, or it's supposed to stick across to get it off of his shoulder. But I don't think he's like Prince Valiant, and that's how they represented him early on the covers of Weird Tales. He had a Roman toga. So I mean, I don't know. I think that Robert E. Howard did a lot of describing when it wasn't specifically white. He just left it to your imagination for the most part. Conan always had dark skin. He never said black, never said white because he had blue eyes and black hair, but he wasn't pale skinned because he was always sun tanned and swarthy and all that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny that some people think swarthy is a slur. You shouldn't be calling people. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Some people think swarthy is a slur.
Yeah, which is funny because a friend of mine that I graduated with, he was just naturally I know his parents. Okay, I know he's a white guy. Okay, but I would say he was swarthy because he's dark haired and he always tanned pretty dark. It's just
swarthy is a name that from what I've seen, and I've looked it up before. I'm relying on my memory, so that could be flawed. But, swarthy came from sailing. So you were out on the sea all day, and you would literally be sunburnt to the point where you're not sunburnt anymore. You're just cooked. You have dark leathery skin with not very much elasticity. So swarthy is a description of that skin type. That would be like saying someone that had eczema that's a fucking slur. Eczema. Eczema is a description of a type of skin condition. So is swarthy. Yeah.
Well, I know, because in the novel that I'm writing, right, the main characters, none of them are human.
That's the other thing I was going to say, but go ahead.
So then, when I do describe the humans, I don't really care. I'm just whatever. They're if it needs to be something different. But here's the thing: I don't want modern politics when it comes to the rate. When you have elves and dwarves and gnomes and halflings and goblins and all this stuff, I don't see skin color being super big on your list of isms, I guess. So I'm sure there'd be some, humans are going to probably feel just, oh, sweet, it's another human. There's going to be some of that. So I'm not going to, I don't know. I try not to have it in my book because I don't want to deal with people.
So
I want a diverse cast, but I want a diverse cast on the terms that make sense, not on some politician's checklist of, you don't have enough representation.
Real diversity.
Yeah.
So, to that point, first of all, when I read fantasy, a lot of the fantasy that I read, that's the other side of it is that they are they're different races. They're fur-covered guys or green or whatever. So unless there's different ethnicities of ogre, you know what I mean? I just picture an ogre. There's no racial slur version of ogre that I picture. It's just he's gonna be whatever they he's got tusks or he's got wide nostrils. It's not. He doesn't have a specific kind of hair or shade of skin or whatever. It might be a color of skin, but the whole race will be, right? So I don't know. Like that's what I a lot when I'm reading fantasy. They don't get all that descriptive. They just I know one author that's very specific on orcs being like Tolkien described. And
Okay.
Tolkien described an orc like a Mongolian, but uglier. That was his description. So this author doesn't like to see orcs green because of that. He wants to see all orcs described like Tolkien described them.
See, that's
The other thing I was going to say is like what I'm currently writing. I wrote about King Arthur. What does he look like?
okay. I don't know.
No, because I didn't describe what he looks like because it's from his point of view.
Right.
For me, what he looks like Conan. Because Conan actually is a name that's Welsh. There was just two A's. It's not Conan. It's Conaan. There is some Cynan because the spellings were not uniform. There wasn't like one direct spelling. But Conan was a king from that time period, and kings there, I mean, it was just a chunk of land that they ruled. That was a king. But for me, he's got blue eyes and black hair, and that's not anybody that I've ever seen describe Arthur as, but that just makes sense for the time period. The square cut name makes sense for the time period because it's simple. You know, there's not going to be all kinds of fluffy hairstyles. Talking about 500 AD. So they didn't even have stirrups. I had to make up something that was reasonable, where you wouldn't be able to find evidence of it later on, so that they could climb on their horses because Arthur was famous for his cavalry. So I just didn't describe him. I didn't describe Cull Hooch either. I didn't describe Merlin. You know what I mean?
Right.
Orson Scott Card said that he didn't describe Ender or most of his main characters because he wants you to be able to imagine yourself as that character. And I kind of like that, but that also, if you think about it, if Ender is not a white kid, it could be anything, right?
Yeah.
And the name Ender Wiggin, like that could be anything. So it's kind of smart to leave it open that way. And I'm torn between specifics and vagaries when it comes to that. But I don't notice a lot of color until people start pointing out color. Like if somebody said it was a Pict, I wouldn't imagine it being a black guy. But that's only because I historically know what a Pict is. Right?
Right.
Same thing with the Briton, same thing with the Roman. Were there Romans that were black? Hell yeah. Because Rome was an ideal. It was an empire. And it really engulfed every place that it conquered. So there was pretty much everything. There were Russians, there were Serbians, there were I'm sure there were Libyans and Egyptians and everyone else that they had been able to conquer. And we know that Cleopatra wasn't even naturally Egyptian. She was Ptolemaic, so she was Greek. Ptolemy was Alexander the Great's general. So the concept of color is a construct almost in storytelling. Inclusivity is a construct, I guess, is what I should be saying, as far as storytelling goes, because unless you have an area or country that is well traveled, there's a lot of trading going on, then there wouldn't really be a lot of outsiders. In Japan, they limited their outsiders. China did for a long time too. They didn't want to trade and deal with the outside world. So it's just kind of interesting to see that this whole thing is a very recent construct at that.
So, getting back to your work thing. So,
getting back to what?
The person who thinks that orcs should all look like Tolkien orcs.
That's an author.
And Digital Tantrum has an important question, actually. So the question is, Mastiff always a dog thing? What is the backstory and rundown on Mastiff? I've never asked.
That's because we didn't tell you either.
Yeah, we've never actually said that.
No, we haven't actually decided all the details on Mastiff, so it's kind of hard to tell you everything. But there are dog-like skills, dog-like sensory perceptions.
Yeah.
Or maybe also enhanced, like futuristically enhanced, that type of perceptions. Senses. I'm overthinking it.
Yeah. The panels leading up to this part. It's a post-apocalyptic city-state type thing. And there's been a murder. There's been a series of murders, and they need Mastiff to help find out what's going on.
Because he's basically a detective. Well, tracker.
Yeah.
And detective.
He works. Yeah, he's smart enough. He's a good boy.
So he's not a black guy.
Wow.
Hey, just, throwing that out there. Oh, you're asking for the origin story already. Well, he's not. So we can't call him a boy if he's a black guy, because that would be politically incorrect.
Oh, okay. Now I see what you're saying. Wow, you clipped that wrong. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you did that exactly opposite, right?
Yes, I did.
You said he's a good boy. I said so he's not black.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess you took that as he has to be a criminal.
Yes.
No, that's not what I meant. I was meaning no, he's not a boy.
Anyway.
We better go on before we get struck.
Oh gosh, yeah. I get fired. Yeah, as for what makes him that's what I need to know right now. We need to know.
We have some ideas, but we haven't committed to anything 100% yet.
Yeah, and Mastiff was hired by the
For now, what you need to know is that he's called Mastiff because of his skills and because of he's a badass.
Yeah, and in this panel and in some of the next ones, you'll get into more about who hired Mastiff and why he's there. So as I said once, I don't know if you've ever seen the TV show from the 90s, The Sentinel. That's kind of like that. Like Sentinel meets... I've been watching my boys play Fallout, and I watched the show. Kind of similar, sorta. And Reacher is, I think, what I said. I said Sentinel meets Reacher. Is what I read in a post-apocalyptic. They're like... Anyway. So, I've enjoyed the show, Reacher. I've enjoyed the movies. I just didn't think those were quite Reacher. I know a lot of people got upset with the movies with Tom Cruise. And I'm like, okay, if you didn't call him Reacher, you just called him, I don't know, Manitow. I don't care. You did.
Well, that's the argument of that is that just Tom Cruise is too short of a guy to play him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And he is. I mean, for what he is written as, and it's reaffirmed almost in every novel.
It's how huge he is.
He's like 6'7" or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And Tom Cruise can't pull that off.
No.
So.
Tom Cruise can act, but he can't act taller. Sorry.
And it's to me, it's like the James Bond argument.
Right.
He could be a different military policeman that's retired, that's roaming the country, like Kung Fu.
Right.
But
oh my God, I never made that connection. That's so what that is.
Yeah, it's Kung Fu.
It is so Kung Fu. Wow. But yeah, but you're right. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I agree. Digital Tantrum said I like the Tom Cruise movies. I'll give it some slack. Yeah, but they don't need to be Reacher movies. They could have been some other guy. But... Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. If he changed the name, then people wouldn't be bitching.
Yeah, Reacher is Kung Fu. You have some guy who basically carries nothing with him. Going around.
So, Digital Tantrum, do you not know what Kung Fu, the TV show with David Carradine was?
Oh, yeah. If you don't know that, that would not make sense. You must know Grasshopper.
Well, yeah, I mean, so that was a concept that was Bruce Lee's concept. And it was that, all right, so that's what we're talking about. Reacher basically came from Kung Fu.
Yeah, he's the American version.
Right. Well, yeah, and written by a Brit.
Which is even better.
That's really weird, but yeah, it's interesting, definitely. I can't talk much because I'm trying to write about British heroes. And I'm not British.
Digital Tantrum said, I never thought about it that way. If they wanted to make a historical joke, they should have cast an Asian guy. Well, so David Carradine was kind of made to look Asian, sort of, for the show. And I'm not saying that Reacher is... Payback. I'm not saying that Reacher actually straight up is Kung Fu, but it's still basically...
It's pretty much the basic premise. It's just more centered on military than actual Kung Fu.
Yeah.
But Kung Fu, the show was based on the Taoism of Kung Fu, not the actual, study of Kung Fu or whatever. Was the mentality behind it, because Bruce Lee was big into the psychology of it. But yeah, it is pretty much. I don't even know. Maybe even that's not an intentional thing, right?
Right, but
the
see
Wandering Warrior, the Ronin, it's all pretty much the same kind of theory, except for that the difference is Kane and Reacher. The difference between them and your traditional Ronin is that the Ronin was out to feed himself when there was no Lord, and Reacher and Kane were out to do good with what they knew. And I think Reacher's more only trying to do good for people that he knew in the military or associated with that.
So, Digital Tantrum said it could also be classified as Touched by an Angel with Michael Landon and More Violence or the TV Hulk with Bill Bigsby.
That's later. Both of them are later.
Right, but it's the same basic concept. Although, wasn't Michael Landon in Highway to Heaven? I think that's what that was. Ooh, and Kung Fu and Reacher, they are both looking for their brother. See? Guy stole Kung Fu.
That's possible. Maybe it's a subliminal thing too, you know?
Yeah.
Like I don't think he outright tried to steal Kung Fu, but
No, the Wandering Warrior trope is older than Kung Fu, so.
Right, that dates back to the samurai because that was the original. That's what Ronin meant, the Wandering Warrior.
Well, even though they have, the search for the Holy Grail, you have knights going out to, like do things, and it's an old story trope.
The search for Holy Grail, though, was a more specific thing. There was only so many questers for the Holy Grail, really, as far as Grail lore goes. Why? Because I've been studying that for the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Probably more. Sitting here trying to decide what I should make his boots, but I don't want to make him like really armored to a degree, but I don't think we're trying to sell him as a fighter. I almost want to put a cloak on. Not a cloak. Like kind of a duster or something. So now the trick is, do they look like they're standing in the same space?
Hold on a second. If I'm gonna do this, I want to make this big and put it up on my big screen so I can really see.
Obviously, he's not going to have the same upshot as him because he's bending over to see what he's doing.
Right, and
we just need to feel like they're occupying the same
I think so.
area.
Yeah, I think it looks good. By the way, I am always a big fan of the Cossack. So, just throwing that out there.
Well, I wasn't necessarily thinking that. I was thinking more like it's not really a trench coat because it's not built for the trenches, but a long coat.
Well, I know in my writing, I tend to have a habit. That's my default. That's the style I, for some reason, find interesting. And I thought that before the Matrix, in case anyone's wondering, because he wears one of the Matrix. But, or he might wear the second Matrix. I don't know if he wears one on the first one. I don't think he does. But I know he does in the second one. All right,
Yeah,
Rich.
I like the long Chinese.
Yeah. Digital Tantrum wants to know who's going to see Deadpool and Wolverine this weekend. More than likely.
More than likely not for me.
Uh,
More than
Hey,
likely
man.
not for me because I really don't get out to the movies. So
oh. It's 11 o'clock, man. I'm going to have to call it a night for me.
well, good night. Have a good one.
See you all, guys. Thank you, Digital Tantrum. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for talking. Everyone else, it's good to be back. See you guys later. Bye.
You'll have to let me know how it is. I heard they did a lot of digital inclusions of other characters that actually weren't the actors weren't in the movie. I say a lot. I heard two, but I'm assuming if they did that with two of them, that would have been more than willing to be in the movie. Then they did that with more. Probably a pretty fair estimate.
Okay. Yep, for your mom.
I'm assuming that that means that you're psyched for the movie, not that you think it's going to be an extremely warm night. seen it Sunday. Yeah, I don't get out to the movies that much. I used to watch 4 movies a week or something like that when I was a kid. My wife doesn't like to go to the movies very often, so we don't do the movies much. I don't have many friends to go see movies with these days because if they're interested in that kind of movie that I want to see, you gotta work. Generally.
Come on, Noodle. Let's go.
Come on. All right, so I think that's probably me for the night too. Got more officers that have got to be around here. I've got to figure out how I want to stage them because I don't know if I have the respective lines right now. So, yeah. Well, thanks. I mean, like it's still rough. I just want to know, like, it's gonna have to be shadowed if he's bent over. You know, certain things are going to be casting shadows, and then your form's going to come out of the light. If I'm coloring this in black and gray, then I've got to leave these for the gray. So there's a whole bunch of stuff scale-wise that I haven't put in yet. I haven't even bothered with him, but he was important for me to give some cast shadow so that you get the idea that he's bent over looking at what's going on. Alright, yeah, that's it. That's it for me for the night. I don't want to wear myself out too much, and there are things that I still want to do that I think I want to look around at some other anime type references because I like the idea of employing some of that. So, thanks for watching Digital. I can't remember your real name. I will eventually. But, yep, everyone that's watched, thanks for watching. Everyone that spoke, thanks for speaking. Everyone that liked, subscribed, or followed, thanks for that as well. Good night. God bless.